All right, here we are, ISHI 33, speaking with Nathan Scudder, Dr. Nathan Scudder. How are you doing, sir?
Doing very well. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. So, you were here, did you give a talk?
I gave a talk yesterday.
Yesterday, okay. Tell me about what you were speaking to everyone about yesterday.
So I was going over some of the international considerations for the area of forensic or investigative genealogy.
Okay.
We've been working in Australia to advance the technique over the last 3 to 4 years.
Okay.
Haven't been able to get to any ISHI conferences in that time, not since pre-pandemic.
Okay.
But it's a good opportunity to come and talk to everyone about what we've been doing and how we can work internationally to really advance this capability.
Well, welcome back. That's really great that you came back for an ISHI. So do you see, what are some of the struggles that we have trying to bridge that gap with the genealogy?
So at the moment, the technique has mostly been, almost exclusively, in fact, been used in the US, or at least North America. And
I did not know that. Okay.
It's based primarily on US-based databases.
Sure.
The labs that do the analysis, particularly for degraded samples, are all in the US.
Okay.
So we had to work through all these challenges when we first started to look at this. Would the databases really work for Australians? How hard was it to get a sample over to the US?
Sure.
No one wanted to be the one who had to tell their boss that their sample got, the last evidence in the case was confiscated by US Customs. So we had to work through all of those steps to make sure it was feasible.
Yeah.
And also, of course, the legal and privacy implications in an Australian context to make sure that we were really maintaining that public trust in the use of those databases.
So who are you working with to make this happen? Like, what departments are you talking to? How do you make that happen in the world?
So in Australia, we have a community of interest across all of the policing agencies that are interested in this technique. We've got the advantage in Australia. Australia and New Zealand has 9 police forces.
Okay.
Here, of course, you've got 8,000 or 9,000 police forces.
Yes, we do. Yeah.
So we have the advantage we can all sit around one table and talk through issues and get on the same page. And then an extensive network of international partners and collaborators and government, academia. We've had quite a bit of help from US agencies, sharing information and experiences, which has been great.
And so are you trying to build a genealogical database in Australia itself? Is that the ultimate goal? And then to marry that with the American, the US one? Or?
The databases are all international.
They are?
There's plenty of ads on TV for the various platforms.
Yes.
Only a few of those, of course, are open to law enforcement use.
Oh, okay.
But we need to encourage the upload of profiles into those databases where people feel comfortable to do that.
Yeah.
And then, of course, we have to make sure that our use aligns with the terms and conditions of those sites.
Yeah.
Even things like access to those databases is limited to certain crime types, but our offences, our crime types are slightly different. So we've got to match all that up to make sure we're using the databases correctly.
Sure. And so what is the public sentiment on the whole idea? Are people wanting to have their DNA out there? Is that kind of a goal?
There was certainly concern after the first few cases. The Golden State Killer case was the most prominent.
Yep.
And there was lots of discussion about this technique.
Yeah.
There's been a lot of work done since that time, both in terms of making sure the platforms did have robust consent and privacy and security. But I think the public sentiment is also shifting. People are seeing the cases that are being solved every day now, just about, here in the US. They're seeing the value, particularly for unidentified human remains cases. We've done some work surveying the public on their support and their concerns, so we can better understand what their concerns might be, and very importantly, how we then maintain that trust in using this technique going forward.
Yes, because one of the issues probably is that somebody might go for that and upload their DNA, but then somebody else in their family might not be as into it, right? Like they might not want that to happen.
Well, the way these databases work, and of course they're intended so you can find your long-lost relatives. So when you upload to these databases, you're really bringing your family with you.
You are, yes.
And that's a consideration that current privacy laws, at least here in the US and Australia, don't really cover. To what extent should you need to at least consider the implications for your family. I think that's a future discussion.
Yeah.
But once you're in those databases, at the moment, we can, if you've opted in, and we can search against your profile.
Yep.
Of course, if you lose trust in that, it's only a couple of mouse clicks, and you can take your profile down, and then it's no longer available.
Okay.
If enough people do that, then the technique won't work.
Wouldn't work. Yes, that's true. And I feel like, is it true that this type of genealogy, could that be used? I mean, I know it solves cold cases, but could it be used for current crimes? I mean,
technically,
a crime that was
no
done
difference.
like last week, right?
It could potentially be used for current crimes. What we have to, again, balance is the privacy implications.
Okay.
So you're building out trees.
Yeah.
Now, sometimes they're quite small trees. There have been cases where a very close relative has uploaded, and you're only really mapping out 10 or 20 people.
Yeah.
There have been other cases where these trees have been quite extensive, hundreds or thousands of people building up multiple lines.
Yeah.
Just trying to find potential areas in the tree where your suspect or your unidentified deceased person may be.
Yeah.
So we do need to make sure that we've exhausted other investigative leads, searched on CODIS, all of the usual things before we start to sort of dive into this new field.
Yeah.
And there always be the exception to the rule where there's it's life and death.
Yeah.
But otherwise, we do need to step through the approaches that are less privacy intrusive.
Yeah.
Before we start building, gigantic trees to find suspects we could have easily found through some other mechanism.
Yeah, that's very true too. So I was also thinking about these trees. Once they're made, they stay there, right? Like, you've already done all the work and you have that all. So that's probably archived somewhere. Mm-hmm. And then you could use that again. I mean, I guess it would have to be crimes within kind of the same family, but...
There is some potential for that, and certainly here in the US, once you get back far enough, you tend to hit the same colonial families.
Exactly.
The best approach that, from my viewpoint, is to archive that data for that case. We wouldn't want to leave those trees where they could be accessed. Ideally, they're built in a secure environment. And away from the rest of law enforcement holdings, because all but one of the individuals in that tree are innocent.
Perfectly innocent.
They're just related to that step.
Yeah.
But of course, you do need to maintain records.
Yeah.
Because ultimately, someone might come back and ask,
correct,
how was this done? You need to be able to demonstrate the process you went through. Mm-hmm. It was robust. That that you did in fact build out these trees. So I also don't agree with dispensing with the trees.
Correct.
But they do need to be securely archived.
Yeah. And what in the world ever made you go into this field? What was your path through life to get to where you are today?
So my background, I've been with the Australian Federal Police for 23 years now.
Oh, wow. Okay, congratulations. That's a long time to stay at one place, right?
Yep, and I spent about 12 years in forensics before I went off to work in legal and policy areas.
Oh, okay.
And now I've come back into the forensic area, but that journey back has been guided by these new DNA capabilities. I started to complete a PhD just at the time. This was before the Golden State Killer. This was, in fact, before any of this had come out. The focus at that time was on DNA phenotyping, which is predicting traits from DNA.
Yeah.
And this was seen as as an evolution in forensic DNA technology. So I started researching the privacy and legal implications of that. And
because now you had the law part of it as well.
And that started to move into this space. Phenotyping is still important, but now we've got a suite of tools that can be used, and no doubt there's more coming. And that all needs a solid privacy and ethical base to ensure that we're using them appropriately in law enforcement. Yeah,
that's an interesting path. That's so you're stationed you live in Australia?
Yes, I live in Canberra, in the capital of Australia.
What is your favorite part about living in Australia? Having never visited, what do you love about Australia?
Look, it's a lovely country. There's plenty of things to see and do in Australia. Big country.
Yeah.
Great place to live, really.
If I visit, where should I go?
Oh, there's so many different places to go. It's a whole continent. So
it's a whole continent all by itself. That's true.
That's right.
And it's rather large, is it not?
It's as large as the continental US. So
Yes. It would take you a couple days to drive it across it, right?
I've done that. It takes 3.5 days just about to get across the
3.5
country.
days.
Yep.
Okay. That's good. All right, well, maybe I'll have to visit, or maybe ISHI should come to Australia. That would
that'd be a good idea. There we are.
would be a great idea, right? All right, Nathan, Nathan. Very nice speaking with you.
Thank you very
Thanks a
much.
lot for coming to ISHI 33, and will we see you at ISHI 34, do you think?
I hope so.
Yep, Denver, Colorado. So
Yep. It's on the west side of the country, so it's a bit
Yeah.
easier to get to. So
in the mountains, so that'll be very fun.
Very
All
good.
right.
All right.
Thanks a lot for sitting down and having a chat with me.
Thank you very much.
Nice meeting you.